Hi guys, Jeffrey Grossman here. In my last video, I gave you access to a free PDF download of my 12-month marketing calendar. You were able to see the kinds of things that I've done in my practice on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. Also in last week's video, I talked about the 3E rule. And the 3E rule is this: every month you need to be doing 3 different techniques to get new patients into your practice every single month. Those things could be doing a health fair, a health talk, a healthcare class, a new patient orientation class, doing a networking event, patient appreciation day, networking dinner. There are so many different things that you could be doing to grow your practice. What are you doing each month to get new patients into your practice? I'm going to go into 3 marketing techniques. I'm going to go into the top 3 ones every single practitioner needs to be incorporating into their practice. And that is a report of findings, a acupuncture happy hour 2022 technique, and patient reactivations. If you're not already tapping into your gold mine of inactive patients, here we are at the report of findings. I feel as though the report of findings should be a mandatory procedure every practitioner does for their patient. So what is a report of findings? A report of findings is a clinical procedure. It is a brief 10 to 15 minute presentation, a one-on-one that you do with your patient. If you were to ask your patients tomorrow what it is that you're doing for them, what would they say? They'd say, well, probably, I don't know, you're just putting needles in me and I feel really good afterwards, which is probably true. But what if a friend of theirs asked them that same question? They'd probably say, well, I don't know, they're just putting needles in me and I feel pretty good afterwards. That is not word of mouth advertising that's going to get people to come on board and to join you in your practice. Patient education is extremely important in your practice. Patient education is the key to practice success. Educated patients get better results, stay in care longer, they tell others, they bring their family members, and they become more invested in their health. It also builds connection and trust. When your patients know what's going on with them, they connect with you a little more deeply and they trust you a little more. A report of findings also answers the 5 questions. Your patients want to know what's going on with them, even if they never ask. They want to know the answer to these 5 questions, even if they never ask you about them. And the 5 questions are this: they want to know what's causing their problem. They want to know how you could help them, how long it'll take, how much it'll cost, and how will their insurance pay for it. These 5 questions are super important for every practitioner to answer, regardless of whether or not their patients actually come out and ask those questions. And when you give a report of findings, you will be touching upon each of these 5 questions and giving them the answers that they want, even though they're not asking you about them. So here's the report of findings forms that I use in my practice. This is the report of findings, this is the care plan and the financial policy. So basically, here's what I do. At the first visit, I gather all diagnostic criteria. I check the pulse, the tongue, muscle testing, do abdominal palpation, ask my questions, and so on. I take all of that information and distill it down into this report here that I will be presenting to them. So what I'll do is I fill out their name, their information, I figure out what their main health concerns are, and then I tell them what I found. So I'll list out here the different diagnostics that I've done with them. Next to that, okay, I will list the meridians that I found to be out of balance. And this is important. When you give your report of findings to your patients, it's best not to go into detail as to tell them about liver qi stagnation, spleen qi deficiency, yin deficiency. It's better just to let them know that there's an imbalance going on with the spleen, the liver, the kidney, or the bladder. It took you 4 or more years to really figure out all that whole acupuncture jargon, and you can't expect your patients to really understand about liver qi stagnation or spleen qi deficiency when you're telling them about that. When you give them the report of findings, it's important for you to share with them the idea that you're just going to be talking about the organs that are imbalanced. What I'll do is I will list out, let's say with the pulse, let's say there's a little spleen qi deficiency, a little liver qi stagnation, a little kidney imbalance, and bladder imbalance going on. Let's say I'm finding out all of these imbalances going on during my diagnosis here. So what I'll put here is I'll put spleen, liver, kidney, bladder. Okay, let's say that's what I found with the pulse, spleen, liver, kidney, bladder. Let's say over here I found with the tongue that there's an imbalance, you know, the spleen is showing up on the tongue, the kidney is showing up on the tongue, the lung is showing up on the tongue, and so on. I'll just list them out here: spleen, kidney, lung, so on. I do that for each and every one of these. I put sort of the superficial diagnosis on there so people don't get confused by the technical jargon that we use as practitioners. Then what I do is I go over here to this column and I'll list out all the different symptoms and signs. So this is the lung and large intestine meridian, the kidney and bladder meridian, the liver gallbladder meridian, the heart small intestine meridian, the spleen stomach meridian right here. Under each of these different meridians, I have all the different symptoms and signs listed out as it relates to the different meridians there. I am putting together a visual chart and a visual representation as to which meridians are showing up out of balance. Your patients and you start seeing a pattern of disharmony showing up in which of the meridians here. And over here, let's say there's a physical trauma going on. I'll circle that and I'll highlight that area and trace the meridian for them so they have an idea as to where that potential imbalance is going on too. In this chart on the bottom here, this is sort of the way the chi flows in the body. So this is the care plan and the financial policy. And this is what, this is the part 2 of the report of findings. So part 1 of the report of findings is, here's what's wrong with you. Okay, you've got back pain, stomach pain, headaches. Here's what I found. These meridians are out of balance with you. Okay. This is how it's affecting all the different meridians with you, okay? This section here is how long it's going to take, what I'm going to do for you, and how much it'll cost. If you see this bar along the top here, there's all these little dots on the top right here. Each of these little dots represent acupuncture treatments. Initially, in the beginning of care right here, they're close together. That's because you normally want to see patients a little more frequently in the beginning of care. This stage of care here is called relief care. In relief care, visits are more frequent because you want to get people out of pain quickly. As people progress in care, they go to this phase of care called corrective care. Visits are further spread out because people start getting better, their symptoms and signs start alleviating, and then ultimately here is called maintenance and wellness care. And this spreads out to maybe monthly or quarterly visits. This chart is a powerful chart to share with your patients because they get to see how in this phase of care, which is relief care, which is I'm in pain, get me out of pain quickly, how come visits are often and frequent. Over here is a little chart that I use. I have relief care, corrective care, and maintenance care scheduled out here, and I put 1 time a week for 8 weeks. That's what I want to see them for, 1 time a week for 8 weeks. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to support the spleen, alleviate the headaches, move stagnation to eliminate back pain. That's what we're going to do. That's our goal. Treatment plan is I write out what the treatment plan is here, what the points that I'm going to be using here, and any other recommendations of care, like using meridian exercises or herbal therapy or even self-care education. This is an important aspect too right here. This is the date of the reevaluation. A reevaluation sets up this thought process in your patients that you don't want to see them forever. Now, I don't know how many of you have come across patients who are like, oh, you're going to want to see me every day for the rest of my life. I've heard that, and that's not true. But the date of reevaluation sets up in your patient's mind that, oh, Jeffrey doesn't want to see me every day for the rest of my life. He wants to see me once a week for the first 8 weeks. And then after the first 8 weeks, we're going to reevaluate and see where you were and where you are now. This sets up the concept of let's evaluate your progress so far. I actually put a date and a date in here so we know at the clinic what date we're going to do our reevaluation, and the patient knows what date we're going to do the reevaluation. This, combined with treatments per week and month, is huge to create patient compliance. The financial policy is this. I normally have it set up where these are all the different procedures that I would be doing in the clinic: acupuncture visits, reevaluation, cupping gua sha, hot and cold, and so on. So normally what I would do is if I'm seeing a person, eight acupuncture visits, $65 a visit is $520. One reevaluation is $125, so I put that there. I'm going to do 2 self-care exercises. I charge $20 per self-care exercise, $40. 2 herbal treatments, $20, $40. This is their whole estimated health care investment right here. $725 is what they would invest for their entire healthcare. What this does, this makes it so there are not surprises to your patients when they come see you for care. So what this does is this allows your patients to actually see what their investment is going to be. In this section here, if your state allows you, or if your insurance plans allows you to offer discounts, then this is helpful for you here. You can set people up on a monthly plan, which means that they could pay at the first and second week of the month. They would pay X amount of dollars, whatever you decide. Let's say it's $725 and you divide it up over, 7 months. So you would have them pay $100 and something a month in order to reach this goal. Prepayment plan, if they pay up front, usually you might give them a maybe 10% discount or something like that. And the time of service plan means that they would just pay you whatever it is that you're doing at that time of service. So they would choose what plan they want. And then on the bottom here, you would sign, and then they would sign, and then this would tear off, go into their file, and and you would send them home with a copy of this as well. So that's pretty much it for the report of findings. It's pretty easy. When I do my report of findings, it takes me probably about 15 minutes or so to put together this whole report for people, maybe even less than that, because I've been doing it for a long time now. So it probably takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to put this report over to them. And it probably takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to deliver this to my patients.